Eat, sleep, yeet, repeat. Eat, sleep, yeet, repeat. Today, guess what? We're talking about Yeet. Let's get straight to it. Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about the cult of all cults. Of course, it's the one and only Yeet. And this is going to be a really fun one. Something, of course, that's very different to what we usually talk about. But of course, I think Yeet is great. And we're going to talk about what Yeet is, why it's so interesting. We're going to give you all of the information that you need to know about Yeet, the bull case, the bear case, and my personal investment thesis at the end. Of course, nothing is financial advice. I, like everyone else in the Yeet community, lose brain cells every single day by participating here. So please don't listen to me. This is just for fun. So we're first of all going to talk about something in the past, I should say, or something in the present, potentially. I think, first of all, not just DeFi actually, the on-chain environment that we have enables us to create novel games. And here is an example of this. This one was famously called 3-3. It was very fun at the time, and I don't need to go into the history of this. I think if you know, you know. This was a very fun one. There was another one as well, a similar time period as well, and this one actually used to tell you the potential number of Lamborghinis that you'd potentially be able to get in future. So at the time of this screenshot, whoever's screenshot this was, they were potentially getting 3. Now whether or not they got those 3 Lambos, I have no idea, but these were very fun ponzi games. Now there are lots of other games in crypto or in DeFi. We play games all the time. We're stablecoin farming, or we're like airdrop farming, I should say, whether it was for ecosystems like Blast or Blur, or the countless other L2s or stablecoins or other kind of applications. There are liquidity games that we play all the time, and there's some game theory attached to them. And that includes looking out for the potential yields, the potential airdrops, or the potential upsides as well that potentially can come from some of them. And there are a few of these other game theory like games that we have, like Fantasy Top or World PvP. You do have to think about them a little bit, and they can be really fun. Of course, you can make profit. You can also lose all your money as well. That is part of some of these games anyway. Now, one thing that I think would actually make some of these on-chain games a little bit more interesting or a little bit more fun would be through Berachain. And that's because Berachain's economic advantage, proof of liquidity, can make these games better, and that's all because proof of liquidity enables this new novel incentive token, which is of course the governance token BGT, that comes directly into ecosystem applications. And I think when you have an external source of potential yield, then that can compensate a lot of the expenses that often some of these games have to offer through their governance token or through their native token. And I think this can really also add an extra twist to the game, or to the games I should say. And this is why I think something like Yeet is very interesting. Now we're going to talk about the Yeet game itself and also some of the other products within the Yeet ecosystem, and I think you'll probably enjoy this. Let's first of all explain how the game actually works. And I think that if there's one sentence to basically sum up this game, it's the last man standing wins. Now, I've got a few bullet points on here that basically explain the game. If you haven't played it before, if you haven't tested it around on testnet, I'm assuming many of you watching are pretty deep within the Berachain ecosystem, and maybe a lot of you are familiar with this. But if you're not, and if you're new to the Bera ecosystem, hopefully these points will be able to tell you exactly how this works. So what happens is that players need to yeet Bera into a pool. And when I say yeet, I'm really referring to like depositing. So you deposit Bera into a pot, I should say. And the aim of the game is that the last person to make a yeet earns 80% of the entire pot. And this happens when the timer goes to 0. So if you're the last person standing, you get 80% of the total reward. Now, the other 20% of the final pot is distributed randomly to 10 or 20 players. I can't remember if it's been changed to 20, but it's around 10 or 20. And so they get the remainder of the reward. Now, you can yeet as much as you want, as long as it is equal or greater than 0.5% of the current pot value. So what that means is if there is $100 of Bera in the pot and you want to make a yeet, well, you're going to have to yeet about $0.50. And you'll have to do that continuously as the game goes on. So if, let's say, the pot has $10,000, again, you'll have to yeet 0.5% of that as a minimum. Now, by actually yeeting your Bera tokens into this pot, you're essentially getting rid of them. You can actually earn some Yeet tokens in the process as well. Now, every single time you deposit some Bera tokens into this pot, there is a tax applied to it, and it's about 15% tax, and that's split across 3 different sections. 9% to the Liquidity Trifecta, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Apologies for the spelling mistake there. 5% to the Treasury, and then 1% to public good fundings powered by the Honey Jar. So this is essentially a pool to play game. It's ponzi PvP game where essentially the last person is the one who wins. And this is what the game actually looks like. A few points that I will mention. So as I mentioned, each yeet has to be a minimum percentage of the pool to ensure that the game eventually ends. Eventually there could be like $10 million and you'll have to somehow deposit 0.5% of their pot value. There is eventually an end to the game. Capital isn't infinite for now anyway. And each yeet actually extends the time by an hour. So there must be no yeets for an hour before the game actually ends. And I think this picture will probably explain it really well actually. So here you can see this is the actual game itself. You can connect your wallet and essentially you just have to yeet. So you can see that the yeets are 131 Bera, 131 Bera, 132 Bera, and then the person who's currently leading has yeeted 134 Bera tokens into this pot. They've got 49 minutes. As long as they are the last person, they're going to win the total lottery. And so that is essentially the aim of the game there, to basically be the last one standing. Now, TLDR of the game, if you just kind of skip to this part of the video, you deposit Bera into a pot. It has to be at least 0.5% of the total pot, and you have to aim to be the last one with no further deposits for an hour. And if you are that person, you earn 80% of the pool, whereas with 20% of them going to 10 random people. 10 random yeeters, I should say. So that is the game. Will you be the last one standing? Now, in the next slide, I've kind of talked about a few different strategies around the game. Perhaps I'm mid-curving this a little bit by even thinking about strategies. Maybe the aim of the game is to just deposit and yeet. But I think it is in my own nature to do this kind of stuff. And so I've thought about some of the dominant strategies in which one would focus on actually winning the game itself, and some of the reactive strategies where you can actually earn by not even winning the game. And I think these are kind of interesting when you think about them. So let's first of all talk about the dominant strategies. Trying to be the last one to deposit. And essentially this requires, firstly, a bit of size. You're going to need a lot of Bera, especially if there's some strong competition. Some persistence to keep on yeeting, and this might mean that you're on your computer or on your phone for a day, or maybe 2 days, or maybe 5 days, constantly yeeting every hour. Possibly a bit of luck as well. And I think one thing is that you have to, first of all, keep a close eye on the timer. Do you yeet straight away? Do you yeet at the last minute? Do you keep yeeting to show everyone who's the boss? I mean, do you track a wallet? Do you track all of the wallets of everyone else who's yeeting with you to see if they've got enough Bera to out-yeet you? There's so many things that you should think about here. But ultimately, I think if you really want to win, then you just need to keep yeeting. Now, there are reactive strategies too, and these are strategies where you're not really focusing on winning per se, and that's because by yeeting Bera in the game itself, you actually earn Yeet Token rewards. And so if you yeet quite early in the game, you might not have to deposit that much Bera because the pot hasn't grown so much, but you're still able to earn those Yeet tokens because of your deposits, and you can then take those Yeet tokens, stake them, and earn yield and things like that, which we'll talk about later on in the video. I think an interesting thing here is to really focus on games that have low volume, so low volume epochs, and this is because every single game there's a fixed amount of Yeet emissions, and so if there's a game that has particularly low volume, for every Bera that you deposit, the rewards that you get will be much higher. And this could be an interesting strategy to get some yeet at a discount. Whether or not there is a discount or not, who knows? But I think these are just some of the interesting things to think about when trying to have a strategy around the Yeet game. So that pretty much sums up the Yeet game. It's quite simple, actually, the game itself. And I think after a few minutes of actually going on the app itself, you'll understand how it works. But it's a really fun one, I think, and something that I think through POL is very, very interesting. So far on testnet, there's been quite a few users. I believe actually my metrics are slightly outdated, so it probably is significantly more than significantly more than just 3K unique users right now. On the testnet, 1.4 million bearer was the biggest yeet, which is pretty wild. I mean, I don't know how anyone's even got that much bearer, let alone be confident enough to yeet it in one transaction. These games have been extended longer and longer and longer. You know, originally I was tracking this quite a lot, maybe 6 months ago, and the games would be like 1 day or maybe 5 days at a stretch, but now they're like 10 days plus at times. And the yeets per game, there's like, you know, thousands of them now all the time, which is pretty crazy. You can see a lot of this data on some dashboards, so maybe I'll leave a link to them in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. But I'll do some moon maths at the end to really try and figure out how big this possibly could be. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. I think you'll really, really like it. So let's talk about the second product. It makes sense for Yeet to really have a left curve product and a right curve product, to really skip all the mid curves, and that's exactly what we've got here. So Yeet Bonds are the second product of the Yeet ecosystem, and they are a little bit more sophisticated in the sense that it's not a ponzi or anything as such. Rather, it's actually a really important product that can help protocols to have protocol-owned liquidity, and that's why we've called it POL squared. There's proof of liquidity, protocol-owned liquidity. I think you understand why it's called POL squared. So Yeet is working with Bond Protocol to essentially bring bond products, I'm talking about financial bond products, to a variety of different protocols. And you might be thinking, why on earth would a protocol want to have a bond product? Well, protocols can grow their protocol-owned liquidity in a quite a sustainable manner by offering these bonds to people to buy. But also it allows protocols to accumulate assets of other ecosystems. For example, let's say it's a protocol who wants to accumulate some Kodiak tokens or some infrared tokens or some IVX tokens. Well, you know, a protocol can do this by buying bonds of those specific protocols, and you can essentially buy them at a discount. And so, yeah, one of the main reasons why this is great is users get a chance to buy a small amount of tokens at a discount. So let me give you an example of how this would work. Let's say we take IVX, for example, when we issue some IVX bonds. Well, users can buy IVX tokens at a discount through this bond product, which are vested over a few days by pairing, let's say, an LP token like IVX bearer LP tokens and depositing them in. And because of this, you know, a protocol like IVX can grow their protocol-owned liquidity because we're essentially receiving LP tokens. And you know, that we're able to, well, the protocol is able to essentially issue some tokens by doing so. These LP tokens can be staked in active gauges and then earn BGT as well. So I think this is like a really, really interesting thing, and this is why it's called POL squared. So protocols can really grow their liquidity, and that's like a really important thing. Everyone needs to grow their liquidity. It makes price action on tokens a lot better in the long run, especially when it comes to the downside. It also reduces some of the volatility, it reduces slippage, and I think in the long run, like, everyone needs their own liquidity, protocol own liquidity, because again, as you know, with Berachain, you can stake those LP tokens in gauges and BGT for it as well. More liquidity is better. So the mechanics of bonds themselves, the discounts that these tokens have, or these bonds have, to the underlying token can be static, which is like a predetermined and fixed kind of discount. It can be dynamic as well, and you can use things like a Dutch auction to increase or decrease the price of them based on the market demand. And these are all configurable, like when you're actually deploying those bond products themselves. Now, will Yeet make revenue from each bond sold? I'm yet to find this out. So this is something that will be interesting to find out. I'm assuming so, but I don't know for sure, and I think it's yet to be disclosed. But right now, again, this is on testnet. You'll be able to see, like, you know, you can essentially buy bond products for a variety of things. So here's IBGT and here's Yeet and Honey and things like that. You know, you essentially deposit specific tokens or LP tokens. You have a lockup period for maybe 3 days, 7 days, 30 days, and you're able to buy assets at a discount. And so this is essentially how it works as well. As mentioned, protocols can change various elements, including the asset they want to receive. So it doesn't just have to be LP tokens, it can be normal ERC20 tokens. I wonder if it could even be NFTs as well. Could you receive an NFT and give out a bond product? That is something that would be kind of cool, I guess. You can decide on the asset that you want to give out, the lockup period, the discount, and the static discount or a dynamic discount through the Dutch auctions. So that's the Yeet product through Yeet, the second Yeet product, I should say, through Yeet Bonds. There are a few protocols, including the likes of Raman, Kodiak, Infrared, IVX, and many others that have already committed to offering Yeet Bonds. And we'll see kind of how that goes along in future. But I think this is a really, really interesting one. More so probably for the protocols themselves, but also for users like you and me who will be able to buy assets from a variety of protocols at a discount to what the market rate is. And I think that's kind of cool. We're going to talk about the third product now, and this is called the Liquidity Trifecta. And this is essentially a kind of partnership between Yeet themselves, Kodiak, Berachain, essentially creating something called the Trifecta. So here's how it works. Liquidity providers take their Yeet tokens and pair them with Bera and put them into a pool. And they receive partner incentives from both Berachain and Kodiak. From Berachain, it comes in the form of Obero, and from Kodiak comes from KDK tokens and XKDK tokens. Now, in order to farm these rewards properly, LPs must provide liquidity in Kodiak, and then when you do that, you receive these LP tokens that represent that position. You stake those LP tokens in Berachain, and then you have to continuously harvest and compound those rewards. But the Liquidity Trifecta vault, which is a singular vault, automates this on behalf of the users and manages the process quite efficiently and continuously to auto compound those rewards. So you don't have to do anything at all with that. The Liquidity Trifecta actually aligns these three protocols together, Yeet, Kodiak, and Berachain, and so essentially allows users to continuously earn these rewards without having to worry about managing their position as such. Now, you might be thinking, why is this such an important product? And I think part of that is because of the relationship that it has to the game itself. Now, 9% of all the volume that comes from the game through Yeets themselves gets deposited into the Liquidity Trifecta vault. And so what was happening is that this LP is getting fatter and fatter every single time this game is played. Now, new Vault share tokens are minted, and these new deposits are awarded in a pro rata fashion to Yeet stakers. So if you stake Yeet, you actually earn more LP tokens. And actually what can happen is that these stakers of Yeet can actually claim these rewards at any time, and you get the choice to withdraw them as the LP token itself. But if you wanted, you can withdraw them as Yeet or as Bera. And I think this is like a really, really important part of kind of how Yeet's tokenomics will work, where like the game volume is directly related to how big and how much rewards this particular pool can get. And so maybe it might be interesting for some people to stake their Yeet tokens so that they can earn revenue, and this will come in the form of an LP that is continuously incentivized by Berachain and Kodiak, two of the big protocols within the ecosystem. You can kind of follow along this chart that the Yeet team did make. Maybe you should start from in the corner here from a Yeetard, or maybe you start from kind of where some of these rewards go. But this essentially just talks about some of the things that I've just mentioned there in terms of how this all works. Yeah, I think we've covered all of that really. So that's the third product, the Liquidity Trifecta. Let's talk about the token itself, the Yeet token. Now, Yeet is a token of the game. It's the token of the ecosystem. It can be obtained in a variety of ways. It can be obtained by making Yeets in the game. It can be obtained by LPing the Yeet Bera pool and staking this LP in the app itself, or by buying it off the market, likely from the Kodiak LP. Now, as mentioned, every time someone yeets Bera, 15% of this is taxed, 9% goes to the Trifecta, and so as a staker, you can benefit from this, 5% to the treasury and 1% for public goods. Now, why do you actually need Yeet? Well, you might want to have exposure to the cult, to the ecosystem, and that might be one thing. But of course, it earns real revenue from the game, and that comes from that 15% tax every single time someone yeets. Governance, perhaps in the future, liquidity flywheel effects, which we've touched upon as well, and maybe some possible revenue accrual through the bond protocol as well. Yeet Bonds, maybe. Again, that's something that I don't have clarity on just yet, but I think that could be interesting. And I do wonder if in the future we will see a variety of new Yeet ecosystem products as well. Ultimately, you do have to stake it. Now, if you do want to unstake, there is a 10-day period. However, if you want to kind of force exit a little bit earlier, you can do so, but there will be a fee that you can see directly on here where, for example, every 2 days the fee goes down by 10%. It starts at 50% and after 10 days the fee is 0. But if you did want to exit early, perhaps because the price of Yeet appreciates massively, well, you can do so, but it comes at the expense of a fee, and this can kind of help the rest of the stakers kind of remain a little bit aligned, I should say. I think this is the same flywheel effect that we kind of just talked about in the last slide, so I won't cover this in more detail, but again, you can pause the video if you really want to understand like how all of this works as well. Now, in terms of tokenomics as well, there will be 1 billion tokens in total. As mentioned, the Yeet rewards are for the first week are kind of fixed when it comes to kind of how much is given per game, 0.154%, but then every single week they do reduce by 0.5% and they're distributed daily at midnight. So this is the rewards that you get for yeeting into the games. Now, in terms of like the actual vesting schedule and tokenomics, I did have a look at some of this, and I wanted to see like how much will there be for various different partners and protocols and also airdrops. So I think you can kind of get a good idea of this. You can pause the video now. One thing that I did try to calculate very quickly is what the day one supply will be. That's because the Yeet token will be live day one of Berachain, and I think that's going to be pretty exciting. According to my calculations, which is what I've been able to calculate from this allocation, as well as how much is unlocked at TGE, I believe that there will be just over 30% of the supply, and that kind of lines up to approximately where this part of the chart is, just around 30%. 12% going for liquidity and bribes, so again this will be as kind of rewards, 8% in the public sale, 1.4% to partners, but this actually can't be sold, so maybe I need to subtract this off, 4.38% in the treasury, and there is something called redacted, which I don't know what that means, but I'm speculating here. Perhaps that means an airdrop, who knows? And that's going to be 5%, with the rest being given linearly over a 6-month period. Now, airdrops are definitely happening. We can see that there is the Apiology DAO getting 2.75% and the Honeycomb NFTs getting 2.75%. So that's pretty cool. And I think redacted, maybe that's related to the Yeetards, which we'll talk about in a moment. Now, public sale will be on Ramen, and there will be 8.5% of the supply. Now, Ramen have a new interesting type of token sale, which I've talked about on Twitter. You can go and have a read of that. That will be fairly interesting to play around with, and we'll see kind of how that goes along. But essentially, how it works is that with the public sale, users will be able to essentially bid for Yeet tokens, but no one else will be able to know what that price is. Maybe you bid 50 million, maybe you bid 10 million, maybe you bid 50 million, 100 million, I should say. Maybe you bid 200 million. And what happens is at the end of the auction, the bids fill from the top going all the way down to the bottom, and whatever the bottom price is that fills the total allocation, that is the price that everyone ends up paying. Now, this is really interesting because it's a little bit more fair, I think. It also gives a more fair market value for the token itself, and that can be beneficial to protocols, but also, you know, it also kind of means that people are kind of aping according to their own personal thoughts, not what kind of the market is saying right now that you see sometimes with LBPs. So I think this is going to be pretty cool. I think it's the first of its kind that I've seen personally in DeFi. Correct me if I'm wrong and if it has been done before, but I think this is going to be really, really fun, and this will be on day one of Berachain. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Yeetards NFT collection, the Yeetards. So the Yeetards are these cute little characters, mascot, the official mascot of the Yeet ecosystem. They look great. They really, really do look great. And you can see I took this screenshot quite a while ago. I think back then they were around 0.15 ETH. They're certainly not that price anymore. There were 6,969 of them max supply. It's on Arbitrum, and we'll shift over to Bera post mainnet. what's really, really interesting is that 1,500 of them have been banned. People are yeeting their Yeetards. I mean, it's pretty wild, actually. But I think the Yeetard, I mean, we're all Yeetards, right? And I think people are extremely Yeetarded, and for some reason they decided to yeet their Yeetards, and maybe they're looking for some yeet rewards for that. But I think in general, they're really, really Yeetarded. What is a utility, or yeet utility, I should say? Well, you first of all get boosted yeet rewards when playing in the game itself. Something extra special from yeet, more special somethings. Apparently there's some whitelist that you can get from a lot of other Bera ecosystem stuff. There's some perks within some of the gaming applications like Fable and Berachain. Apparently also, according to Lord Pemberton himself, you get mad street cred if it's your PFP because art is yeeted as a MFER. Whatever that means. And some other benefits to be announced. Now, in terms of like the benefit of holding a Yeetard NFT in the game itself, the number of NFTs you hold increase the weighting in terms of the reward calculation. And you can see that initially it's kind of pretty explosive, but then kind of tapers off over time. So the difference between having 20 NFTs and 25 NFTs isn't that much, but the difference between having 0 and 5 NFTs is quite a substantial amount and can give you a nice boost in the game itself. And this might be a reason for you to actually want to hold on to your Yeet, or your Yeetards, I should say, if you are planning on actively playing the game and earning those rewards. Now, what's next? I'm speculating here, majorly speculating here. But I saw this picture, and I don't know what this means, but I do know that Harry Potter, Obama, Sonic, Inu10, or whatever it's called, and the Yeetard mascot itself are chilling together. And I don't know what's happening, but I think the fact that they're hanging out together does make me suspicious of something that's going on with HBOS. Let's wait and find out. Maybe there's going to be the Yeet game on the Berachain L2. I have no idea, but I'm speculating. We're in AI agent season as well. I think everyone's been enjoying the AI meta. Maybe we'll see AI Yeet as well. Again, I have no idea. I'm purely speculating. But I think one thing that we will see is there probably will be further products coming down the line. And I think that's going to just grow the entire Yeet ecosystem as a whole. But who's actually behind it? So as I mentioned, we've got Pemby, or Lord Pemberton, Squiggle Bop, who's the founder. We have Koala as well, who's the CTO. I think in general, they're quite a small team. There's four other members actually, that I don't think get enough credit. They probably deserve a lot more credit for building such an incredible community. What's really interesting is that there's no VCs over here. I mean, they bootstrapped this entire project by themselves. You know, through the NFT mint itself, they raised 300 ETH in the NFT mint, and they've been able to do, you know, really, really good because of that. I think that the Yeet community is actually one of the strongest within the Bera ecosystem. It's definitely got a cult vibe, and they've done a great job for themselves. So you can really see a lot of the memetics that they have been able to build out themselves through their Twitter page. I think that's probably the best place to kind of get involved. But yeah, you can see that if you don't join their Discord, maybe there's something for you to enjoy there as well. We're going to finish things off by talking about the bull case, the bear case, and my investment thesis as well. So please enjoy this part of the video as well. I split this into a few different components. We'll talk about the product first, then the token, and then the team. So product-wise, look, I think it's interesting. They've got revenue-generating products for both the left curves through the Yeet game itself, and also for the right curves, you know, through Yeet Bonds. I think both of them can potentially scale, especially bond products for sure. I think overall, whilst it may seem a little bit complicated the first time, they're actually pretty simple and fairly easy to understand. And I think in bull market conditions, you know, games like the Yeet game are easy to capture attention, inflows, and therefore revenue. I think there's really a strong connections within the ecosystem, and I think there's some pretty interesting flywheel effects using POL. That's including the bond product, but also some of the incentives system structures that we have through the Liquidity Trifecta. And there's definitely a cult-like community around the product as well. Look, the Yeet token earns revenue via the tax, and I think this is something that can be, you can kind of price it based on that, I guess. There's possible revenue capture from the other ecosystem products within the Yeet ecosystem per se. I think one thing that's great is, look, there's no VCs here, so no one's going to be dumping on you other than I don't know, some of the people who get very, very lucky and maybe get some nice airdrops. I think this is quite cool, and this is one thing that I think is really going for it. A much fairer launch, I could say. The Yeet team, actually, they're very, very experienced. They're very sophisticated as well with DeFi. They may not sound like they are, but they're very, very sophisticated. And they really, really know how DeFi liquidity games work. They're very, very intelligent, and props to them for building this out, because it is really, really quite cool. And I think, lastly, they're great at distribution. I think they've been able to really showcase themselves of having some of the largest mindshare within the ecosystem per se. And again, props to them for that. But of course, there are some things to think about, and that is, of course, the bear market, or the bear case, I should say. First of all, do all ponzi liquidity games end up the same? Not always, but I think an Ohm is a perfect example of this, where it did have its rise and its fall, and now it's having its rise again. I don't think so. I don't think that this is the case, but I think it's just something to think about anyway. How does a product like this, though, get traction in the bear market? In a bear market, people are very conservative. Are people willing to yeet away their money in a bear market? Is success volume dependent? And perhaps in a bear market, volumes drop down massively, and I think this is going to be something to think about. And I think also, when you think about the types of people that may like something like Yeet, it is a cult, in my opinion, and therefore I've kind of just written, will Yeet get the attention of someone like Murad? Murad, of course, being very popular for his cult thesis around meme coins per se. And I wonder at times, is the fact that is Yeet too tied down to the Berachain ecosystem to get escape velocity into the real world? I wonder if there will be a point in time where, let's say, some of my friends or some of your friends that aren't really tapped into crypto the same way that we are, get kind of exposure to Yeet. Do they hear about Yeet, or is this kind of just too niche of a bubble? I think it's just something that I do think about from time to time as well. In terms of the token as well, has a lot of the value capture been achieved through the Yeetard NFT themselves? We'll talk about this in the next slide in a little bit more detail. Look, the Yeet token will be given out regularly as well. It's kind of as a constant reward token. I mean, is the volume enough to replace the inflation that comes from this? And therefore, will we see a lot of ongoing sell pressure? That is just, again, something to think about. And is there also enough buy pressure coming from the staking and LP rewards as well? I guess that depends on what the APRs will be. Perhaps some of these rewards from external protocols, for example, from Kodiak or Berachain, or even from BGT itself, might be enough to compensate this. But I think it remains to be seen, and we'll find out in due time. I think the mid-curve take definitely would be thinking about Yeet and its revenue, and then doing a price to sales analysis of it. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think there could be a chance where some people think about Yeet and its revenue and put them together, and maybe it doesn't make sense. But who knows? Is it also really a meme coin? It's not really a pure meme coin either. They've got actual real products. So it's a little bit different. It's not really a DeFi coin. It's not really a meme coin. What is it? It's something really unique. I think it's a cult coin. I think it's really, really interesting. But yeah, I think these are just a few things that I think are worth thinking about when it comes to the Yeet token itself. So here's my investment thesis. And again, no financial advice. Don't listen to me. I'm as Yeetarded as all of the other Yeetards. Yield perspective, right? The yield token, the Yeet token could be something interesting for those who want to stake or LP. And that's because at times they're probably going to be really, really high APRs. That's because of the partnerships as well as the POL integration. And I think if the volume in the game goes really well, of course, the APR is going to be nuts. And I think that could lead to high buy pressure, and that could be pretty interesting. From a meme or from a cult perspective, I think it's really interesting to think about how Yeet could be treated like a meme. Does this give it infinite upside? I mean, we see memes like Doge trading at 50 billion, many memes trading above $1 billion. Does this lift all the possible avenues up and really raise everyone's targets? I think cult-like communities can pump things really, really high, and we've seen that many times. Much higher than at times the actual fundamentals can take it. So that's going to be something interesting. And of course, the mindshare ties in very closely with this. I think as long as Yeet retains significant mindshare post mainnet, and perhaps this comes from the game getting significant adoption, could this be this cycle's Olympus DAO? Just a question there. I mean, one thing that I think is the big question here is, will Yeet be treated like a DeFi coin or a meme or cult coin? Personally, I think it's not a DeFi coin. I think it's the latter. It's a cult coin in my opinion. So let's talk about numbers now. We'll do some moon maths. It's moon maths time. Why just moon maths time? And I think let's first of all talk about the Yeetard NFT collection. There was quite a few to begin with. 1,680 have been burned. That leaves us with around 3,875 in circulation. Current floor, as of recording, is 0.3 ETH. And that means that you've got a market cap of 860 ETH, which as of today is $3,300, ETH. So that means that the actual NFT collection has a market cap of 2.8 million. Now keep this in mind, because when we go back to the tokenomics, we know that redacted, whatever redacted means, could be 10%. And so there's a few things that I'm thinking, are Yeetards going to potentially get rewarded from this? Now, if it's 50% of this 10%, then I think that this could be pretty interesting, because I'd like to think that 50% of this redacted go to the Yeetards, and maybe the other 50% go to perhaps the users of the testnet, or maybe people who burned their NFT. I'm not too sure. I could be completely wrong. Pepe is probably laughing at me right now. I'm not too sure. But what does this mean? And this is where I think things get interesting. So if 5% of the total supply equals 2.8 million, which is the current circulating market cap of the NFT collection, then does Yeet have an implied valuation of over 50 million FTV? Maybe. If all of this redacted is going to Yeetards, then we're looking at something just under 30 million FTV. Now, I think take these numbers into consideration, because here's the next question. How big are the biggest cults in crypto today? And I've just put a few on screen right now. We've got Pepe, 8 billion, Pengu's, 2 billion, SPX, 1 billion, Fartcoin, 900 million. Even the Milady cult coin is 200 million. And this is a list of Murad's coins, his cult coins, you could say. And you can see, a number of different metrics here. I think this is slightly outdated, but not too far off, where you can really see the valuations of some of the biggest cults today. They're in the billions or high, like hundreds of millions. All of these names here are big. And I think, in my opinion, my thesis for Yeet is for it to be in the same category as some of the above coins. And this is why I think Yeet could be potentially interesting. That's my thesis. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think about the Yeet ecosystem, the Yeet game. Are you Yeetarded as well? Do you hold a Yeetard? Pepe, if you're watching this, thank you for all of your help in letting me put these slides together. I've really enjoyed this one. It's been really, really fun. If you like Berachain as well, smash the like button. We'll be back with plenty more educational content in the not so distant future.